फ्रीलांसिंग करनी है, ऑनलाइन बिजनेस करना है, इंटरनेशनल क्लाइंट्स के साथ काम करना है। सबसे बड़ा इशू जो हम देसियों को आता है ना, वो है जी इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज। हमारी इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज इतनी अच्छी नहीं है, हम उनसे ठीक से बात नहीं कर पाते, उनकी बात को ठीक से समझ नहीं पाते, जिसकी वजह से हमारे पास पोटेंशियल तो बहुत है, काम हम बहुत अच्छे से करके दे सकते हैं, लेकिन वो लैंग्वेज बैरियर की वजह से हम लोग वो नहीं कर पाते। तो भाई मास्टर क्लास बाय एचपी सर्विसेज में आज आपका ये बैरियर भी तोड़ दिया गया, समझ लें, क्योंकि आज मिस आयशा आप लोगों के लिए लेकर आई है कंप्लीट इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज कोर्स। एंड इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज टीचिंग में इनका बहुत अच्छा एक्सपीरियंस है, ऑलरेडी बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स हैं जिनको ये इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज सिखा चुकी है। ये कोर्स इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज में होने वाला है, क्योंकि देखिए इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज सीखनी है तो कोर्स भी इंग्लिश में ही होगा जो आगे चलने वाला है। अब आप लोग ये शायद सोच रहे होंगे कि हमें इंग्लिश नहीं आती तो हम कैसे इसको वो करेंगे। देखिए आपने सबसे पहले कुछ टिप्स मैं आपको बताता हूँ कैसे आपने सीखना है। आपने सब टाइटल्स ऑन कर लेने हैं। जिस जगह पर आपको किसी चीज का मीनिंग समझ नहीं आएगा आप सिंपली उसको ट्रांसलेट करेंगे, और बल्कि कोई कॉपी पेंसिल भी आपने साथ रखने की, कौन कौन से वर्ड्स आपने नए सुने नए सीखे, और फिर आप उसको ट्रांसलेट करेंगे और उसको समझेंगे और फिर आप उसको देखेंगे। एक चीज ज़हन में रखें, अगर आप ये सोच रहे हैं ना कि ये कोर्स देखने के बाद या इसकी ट्रांसलेशन करने के बाद मैं इसको समझ जाऊंगा, तो ऐसा नहीं होने वाला। आपको टाइम लगेगा, एटलीस्ट आपको 45 डेज का आप चैलेंज ले लें कि 45 डेज तक मैं रेगुलर इंग्लिश प्रैक्टिस करूंगा विदाउट स्किपिंग एनी सिंगल डे। मैं डेली इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज प्रैक्टिस करूंगा, तो इंशाल्लाह आप इतने फ्लुएंट हो जाएंगे, एटलीस्ट आपको इतनी इंग्लिश आ चुकी होगी कि आप फ्रीलांसिंग कर सकें, ऑनलाइन बिजनेस कर सकें, और एटलीस्ट गोरों को अपनी बात समझा सके और उनकी बात को समझ सके। याद रखें, इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज या कोई भी लैंग्वेज अगर आपने सीखनी है तो भाईजान वो बोल के ही सीखी जाती है। कोई दुनिया का कोर्स, कोई दुनिया की ट्रेनिंग घोल के आपके दिमाग में नहीं डाल सकता। जब तक आप बोलेंगे नहीं तब तक आप सीखेंगे नहीं। एक और टिप मैं आप लोगों को देता चलूँ, कोई बात करने वाला अगर आपके पास नहीं भी है ना, वैसे आज के दौर में इतना मुश्किल नहीं है, ठीक है घर में नहीं होगा, लेकिन सोशल मीडिया पर या और बहुत ऐसी साइट्स है जहाँ पर आप प्रैक्टिस कर सकते हैं, बट स्टिल नहीं है तो भाईजान मिरर के सामने खड़े हो जाएं और बोलें। जितना ज़्यादा बोलेंगे उतना ज़्यादा सीखेंगे। तो मैं भी बहुत ज़्यादा एक्साइटेड हूँ आप लोगों के साथ इस कोर्स को वॉच करने के लिए। इंशाल्लाह मैं भी इन टिप्स को अप्लाई करूंगा। एंड मिस आयशा के सोशल मीडिया के लिंक्स मैंने आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन में मेंशन कर दिए, जाएं उन्हें फॉलो करें एंड इस कोर्स को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शेयर करें। तो आइए सीखते हैं।
Assalamu alaikum and hello there. My name is Aisha Deal and I'm your course instructor for Spoken English, a beginner's guide. I hope you're as excited about this course as I am. Do you feel frustrated, bored, stressed out, or nervous whenever you try to speak English, even after years of learning the language? Well, you're not alone. English trauma is a global epidemic. The reason why I decided to create this course is that I wish to help you overcome your fear of speaking English. Please try to understand that English is no rocket science. Learning English can be fun. Learning to speak English is very much possible if you are determined and consistent. One of the reasons that really inspired me to develop this course was a video that I coincidentally saw on YouTube. The speaker is now a highly successful and famous CEO and entrepreneur. In the video, he tells about his early years as a digital marketer. He had so much knowledge in his subject that he was bursting with it. Once, he had an interview with one of the biggest marketing companies of the world. In the final round, they asked him his ideas and solutions to different problems. He knew the answers, but he remained silent. He wasn't able to express himself. He wasn't able to find the words to explain his ideas. Therefore, he got rejected. After that, he started his own business and did very well with the local clients, but kept on losing the international ones. Finally, he realized that in order to achieve his dreams and to become highly successful, he will need to learn the English language, conversation, and communication. It really breaks my heart when I see so many talented students and children taking the exams of different schools, but they're not granted admissions only because of the language barrier, only because they're not able to answer the questions in English at the time of the interview. I hope you realize that in spite of having technical skills, knowledge, and practical experience, you'll limit yourself if you don't try to improve your English skills and communication skills as well. English connects you with the world. The objectives of this course are to help my students overcome their fear of speaking English, to help them transform their broken English into fluent English, to provide an organized content, to encourage a positive attitude towards learning English, and to be able to interact with others through this language, to be able to differentiate between communication and talking. Hello there! Speaking English can open up a lot of new opportunities in career, academics, and personal life. But many people fail to speak English fluently. There are several reasons for this. Many people feel shy and nervous to speak English. Some feel afraid that they'll make a lot of mistakes. Having a negative mindset and fixed mindset can also lead to failure. Some have no goals or they lack the effort of practicing. Some students think that in order to speak English fluently, they need to first perfect their grammar. Let's take a closer look at these causes. Do you think that in order to speak English fluently, you need to first learn some boring and countless rules of grammar? Well, when you were a toddler, did you first learn the rules of grammar and then did you start speaking your mother tongue? Now, don't get the wrong idea. Grammar is important and I just love it. But more important than grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation is psychology and a growth mindset. Some students feel nervous and shy to speak English because they're afraid to make mistakes. It is natural to make mistakes. A lot of people now who are fluent speakers of English had been in the same situation. The more mistakes you make, the more you will learn. Let me share a little secret with you. Even a lot of native speakers make mistakes, and they don't get upset about it. Barack Obama once said, "Don't let your mistakes define you, let them teach you." Some people feel frustrated to speak English because they care too much about what others think about them. Tell me, if you're a beginner and in case you speak broken English, do you think you look foolish? Does it really mean that you're a fool? No, of course not. Just because you cannot speak a certain language doesn't mean that you're any less talented or any less intelligent. You can learn to speak any language in the world by practicing. Don't feel inferior because English isn't your mother tongue. Many nations of the world, in spite of knowing English, prefer to speak their own mother tongue. Some people are afraid of speaking English because they think that if they make mistakes, something bad will happen to them. Think about it. What is the worst thing that can happen to you? Will people laugh at you? Yes, it is possible that few people may make fun of you, laugh at you, or make remarks like अंग्रेज की औलाद and अंग्रेजी में शो मारने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. But you are practicing for your own growth and not for them. In your life, there will always be two kinds of people. The first category belongs to those who will always support, motivate, and encourage you. The second type is of those people who will always discourage you. If you have some people in your life who belong to the first category, then you're very lucky. But honestly speaking, we actually grow in the real sense when we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations. Many English learners have negative thoughts or a fixed mindset. For example, this is too hard. I will never be able to speak English. I'm sorry. I'm afraid that if you continue to have negative thoughts and listen to them, then you can continue to be unsuccessful. That is why it is very important to have a growth mindset which focuses on the positive. Your efforts are going to be the key to your success, not a quality that you were born with. More than 2 billion people are learning English worldwide, but many of them will not be successful because they don't have any set goals. Just by wishing that one day you'll be able to speak English fluently without making any grammatical or pronunciation mistakes is just not enough. This is a very broad and unclear statement. You need to have an end and final goal. For example, you want to clear your IELTS exam with the first attempt? You're moving or traveling to some Western country? You want to make some English speaking friends? Or you want to grow more in your career? I'm not saying that your wish that you want to speak English fluently one day is not achievable. It is. It's just that learning a new language can take time, and there can be occasional failures and setbacks. At this point, many students get discouraged and they give up. So, in order to keep yourself motivated, you have to focus on the biggest picture. You can do this by setting short, specific, and strategic goals. For example, you can listen to a good English podcast daily for 1 month. After that 1 month, you can set a new goal. For example, you will try to speak in English on an everyday topic without hesitation for 1 minute. So, this way, you can set some goals for yourself. So, keep trying, have courage, don't give up, and don't pay any heed to naysayers and negative minded people. Assalamu alaikum. Hi, how are you? Last time I talked about the importance of psychology and mindset in learning a language. And you don't have to feel embarrassed if we can't speak English fluently, as it's not your mother tongue. Many nations of the world pay more attention to their own native language than any other language. I was on a business trip to Germany once, and I stopped the cop to ask him for directions. And he said to me in perfect English that I was very rude since I wasn't speaking to him German, but in English. Now, coming to our topic, you need to listen to English as much as possible, whether it's audiobooks, speeches, movies, or podcasts. Don't stop listening. Do you find it difficult to understand native speakers of English? Do you feel that they speak too fast? The first step towards learning to speak any language is listening. The more you listen, the better you'll get at it. Initially, you'll miss out on a lot of words, but over time, you'll understand everything. Listening will improve your speaking capabilities immensely. You'll learn perfect pronunciation, accent, grammar, and intonation. Listening and repeating is the best way to learn a language. Listening to English every day for 30 minutes will bring a revolutionary change in your life. Listening to English is the natural way to learn. How do babies learn to speak their native language? For the first year of their lives, all they do is listen and observe. They become familiar with the words and phrases of their native language. The more they listen, the more they become fluent and natural. This is called the method of language acquisition. Of course, as adults, we can speed up this process a lot. Be an active listener and don't just hear, because hearing is a passive process, whereas listening means to pay attention and try to understand the words and the sounds. Search for topics in which you are genuinely interested, like business, traveling, cooking, baking, and the metaverse. The great thing about YouTube is that if you're listening to a scene and you want to check on a new word or something you didn't understand, you can always go back and check on it. This is a very good habit of going back and checking on something. First, try to listen without subtitles, then switch them on. Start by watching videos of 2 to 5 minutes. Watch cartoons. You'll learn more from cartoons than from movies. Cartoons use better language, perfect grammar, and normally no slangs. Listen to a TED Talk. Try to understand its basic concept and teach it to someone or record yourself. Watching movies is a fun and popular way of learning English. But movies may also waste your time a little because, in case there's a fighting scene, nobody's talking at that time. You don't have to watch the whole movie. Divide the movie into 3 parts. Watch one part, and in case you're not able to understand something, you can watch it again. Don't do binge watching. Sometimes we keep watching and watching without trying to understand the things. If you really want to learn, watch the same thing 2 to 3 times. The second time you watch, you'll grab many things. And don't forget to watch a movie with a high IMDb rating. Watching the English news channels like CNN, Fox News, BBC, Sky News, and Al Jazeera will teach you new words of English and educate you in proper pronunciation. I myself haven't really studied from an English school because in the town where I spent my childhood, there were no English schools. But I grew up watching a lot of CNN and some great TV shows like Small Wonder and Full House. And they really helped me improve my language. Assalamu alaikum. Although most of us have studied English for years, many of us are still not able to speak the language fluently or pronounce a lot of words correctly. A lot of us know how to read and understand English, but we still feel nervousness in speaking the language. Many of the methods tried may have been ineffective. Your accent and pronunciation is very important. Grammar and sentence structure is important too, because if you say that he go to college yesterday or they has a good collection of books, then that wouldn't be right. But also very important is your accent. Try to sound natural. Listen to native speakers of English like Americans, Britishers, Australians, and Canadians. In the beginning, listen to either American or British speakers. If you think that you don't have the environment, then create your own. For 90 days, listen to only English YouTube channels, dramas, sports, cooking shows, and international motivational speakers. Listen to things of your interest. When you listen to a native speaker, it'll go to your mind subconsciously. You may not enjoy it in the beginning, but after 5 or 6 times, it'll become part of your life. When you listen to a native speaker, try to imitate their intonation and pronunciation. Do they go up or down when they make a certain sound? How do they pronounce the various letters or words? I've read a lot of books on spoken English by international authors, but one book that really caught my attention was Talk English by Ken Zhao. I would recommend this book to anybody who wants to improve his or her English fluency. As you read the book, you can connect with the author and feel the suffering he experienced as a result of his broken English. Finally, he did succeed at improving his English communication. He did his Master's of Science in Space Studies and became a translator in the United States Department of Defense. He also became a business owner, a newspaper editor, a principal, and an English teacher. His story is very inspiring. Mr. Ken Zhao belonged to a poor farming village in China. When he was 7, he started working in the fields. When he was 13 years old, he dropped out of school. At 17, he moved to the USA with his family. There, he started taking ESL classes. By the age of 20, he spoke broken English, understood the language very little, and had a limited vocabulary. But then he used a method that transformed his broken English into fluent English within 6 months. People thought that English was his native language. He says that he doesn't have any special talents. What he used was my fluent English formula. It was a formula that he himself created after reading more than 80 books on spoken English by native and non-native speakers. His golden rule is, repeat what you hear again and again. He got the perfect opportunity to work on his strategy in New York City, where he used to travel every day to and from work in the subway train. He would take his Walkman with him so that on the way he could listen to English lessons and songs. But after reading all those books on spoken English, he decided to use his Walkman for his strategy, and instead started listening to the news. Every day upon reaching home, he would record the news for the next day. And then he started repeating the news in the subway. During those days, the subways used to be very noisy, and this gave him a great opportunity to work on his strategy. Nobody could understand what he was talking about. In the beginning, there were a lot of words he didn't understand, but he repeated them anyway. In the beginning, the news was too fast for him, but he always tried to catch up. If there was ever a word or phrase he didn't understand, he would rewind the tape and listen to it again. He would repeat that word or phrase once, twice, or thrice until he got it right. That helped a lot. 3 months after he started this exercise, he recorded his own speaking to see how much he had improved. To his surprise, he had become pretty fluent. His English was even better than other ESL learners. After 3 more months, he again recorded his speaking, and the result was overwhelming. His speech was flow, pronunciation was correct, accent was better, and his voice was clear. Hello. Why can't we speak English confidently like we speak our mother tongue? What is the root cause of this problem? Do we need to improve our grammar? Do we need to enhance our vocabulary to make a lasting impression? What is the mistake that we're making? The problem could be that when we're speaking in our mother tongue, we're thinking in our mother tongue. But when we're trying to speak in English, we're still thinking in our mother tongue and then we translate it to English. This is the root cause of this problem. If you're able to find a solution to this, then your English will be fluent and you'll gain confidence. So we need to think in English directly instead of converting. Converting and translating takes up a lot of time and effort. If your English is slow and broken, this means that you're thinking in your mother tongue. So why do we need to translate anyway? Why can't we just directly think in English? Since childhood, we're used to thinking and speaking in Urdu or Arabic, etc. Did you speak in your mother tongue before you got into school or after that? Of course, before you got into school, you could comfortably speak in your mother tongue and express yourself. As a toddler, we used to observe our adults and copy them. So the first thing is observation and then practice. Your thinking is totally in your control. What you think will come out of your mouth. If you don't first try to learn to think in English and instead directly try to speak English, then it'll be very difficult for you. So, how do we develop this ability of thinking in English? It won't happen overnight. You'll have to get used to it and make it a habit. In the beginning, you'll have to put in a lot of effort. It will drain you and burn you out. But with time, it'll get better. Whenever you're trying to learn a new skill like driving, skating, or learning how to make chapatis, etc., it feels really hard and you have to be very careful and cautious. But with time, it becomes automatic. When you keep practicing that skill, the hard part comes down and you start enjoying the process. So let's dive in and look at the different ways you can learn how to think in English step by step. Surround yourself with English. Watch English movies, TV shows, comedy shows, and speeches, etc. But with English subtitles, not with translation. Watch and read anything good as long as it's in English. When you consume a lot of content in English without even realizing it, you'll start thinking in English. When you expose yourself to English more and more, you'll start thinking in English more and more. Start simple and small. Begin with your bedroom. Look around you. Start naming the objects in English. Door, window, closet. Focus on the pronunciation. If you're not sure about the pronunciation, you can check on Google or an online dictionary. Look at a picture. Start naming the objects in it in English. Gradually, you can start using sentences and phrases. Talk to yourself and have conversations with yourself. Narrate in your head at least one of your activities in English while cooking, cleaning, shopping, and taking care of the kids. For instance, my room is a mess. I should clean up before mom gets home. This soup needs a little more salt. I think I should put that ice cream in the fridge before it melts. Talk about your routine and plan for the next day. Tomorrow, maybe I'll go shopping. Keep your mind active during the day. Try describing the things you see. Throughout your day, describe in your head everything that's happening around you. You can do it in any situation at a wedding, at the park, at home, at school. For example, that boy looks like he's looking for his mother. The voice of that bird is so beautiful. I don't feel so good today, and I really don't. Do this for 10 minutes every day. Use simple words and sentences. No need to use any complicated structures. With time, it'll get better. Prepare sentences for future conversations. Build a database of sentences that you can use in a variety of situations. Come up with sentences that you can use at school, with your friends, at a party, at the office. I used to practice this when I was at school. I used to write down different sentences in my diary and I used to practice them before having a talk with my teacher. Excuse me, ma'am. May I have a word with you, please? I would like to register a complaint, please. Nadia, can you please take a look at my painting? You can do it too before having a talk with your boss before a business meeting or when you're having a casual conversation with your friend. When you keep practicing these sentences, you'll be able to use them without thinking too much. Finally, learn in English. Do an online course in English. Study, do research, read the instructions in English. Use an English to English dictionary. Like Peter Pan said, just think of happy thoughts and you'll fly. In most parts of the world, students study English in schools for years. Yet, a vast majority of them never learn to speak English well. Even after years of study, most of them have trouble with English conversations. As a result of the traditional methods used in schools to teach English, most of the students become frustrated, confused, and bored. What is the reason of all this misery and failure? One obvious problem is the way they teach English in schools. In many schools all over the world, they use the grammar formula memorization method. But the problem is that this doesn't really work because in real English conversations, there is just no time to think about formulas. Speaking English is not a passive activity. You have to be spontaneous. You have to be ready for the unexpected. You must express your ideas. This approach of teaching the grammar rules in detail improves the students' writing skills and their ability to take an English test. But what about their speaking ability? Now the big question arises, is grammar even necessary for speaking English? Well, we cannot ignore it completely. Studying grammar in detail is important for writing skills, but for speaking, we don't need to study it in way too much detail or spend too much time on it. Most of the people think that for speaking English, we should focus more on grammar than fluency. And then they end up thinking that, was I even correct? Did I use the right tense? And that is when they start stammering. Just take an example. When you were a kid, you were learning your mother tongue from the environment. Your mother just didn't start teaching you the grammar rules even before preschool. I know what you're thinking, that you don't have the environment. But do you know how we tend to speak better English with better grammar? It is when you listen more and more. It is all about listening. At the end of this lecture, I will talk about some basic grammar that you do need to know as a beginner. Speakers want to convey their messages accurately and fluently, whether it's a casual conversation or public speaking. Accuracy is defined as the correct use of grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. Fluency means to be spontaneous. You may already know. Reading is the fundamental skill to comprehend and understand the written text and to expand our knowledge. But what you may not know is that reading also improves our speaking skills. According to a study, people who lacked accuracy and fluency in their speaking improved their speaking skills a lot after they started reading a lot. They can now subconsciously use the correct grammar, words, and construct sentences. They were able to achieve all this without taking any special classes or training, but only because they started reading a lot. According to my experience, the best type of reading material to improve your speaking skills is fiction books, especially modern fiction. Because in fiction books, they tend to use words, sentences, and phrases which people normally use in everyday conversations. Most of the students read for studying English, but one type of reading is reading for pleasure. This means reading something of your interest without stressing about grammar and vocabulary. When you're relaxed, your brain is able to take much more and you learn without even trying. Reading aloud also helps with your speaking skills. Regular practice of reading aloud brings in clarity, fluency, and makes you sound confident. It also helps with your pauses. A full stop has a longer pause and a comma has a shorter pause.
I remember sitting in an airport one day, waiting for my flight. I was excited because I had been upgraded to a first class ticket. And in first class, the seats are bigger, the food is edible, and the flight attendants are actually nice. In fact, I had the best seat on the entire plane, seat 1A. Before boarding, I noticed a young lady who had several carry on bags and was holding a crying baby. Having just finished reading a book on doing random acts of kindness, I heard my conscience speak to me. You scumbag, let her have your ticket. I fought these promptings for a while, but eventually caved in. Excuse me, you look like you could use this first class ticket more than me. I know how hard it can be flying with kids. Why don't you let me trade you tickets?
Oh, I love books, and I think that reading books is a fabulous way to learn grammar and improve our vocabulary. But if you're just reading and writing, then you won't be able to read the right level of English improvement that you want to see. If you want to walk into a restaurant and order something in English and sound fluent, you won't be able to do that if you're just reading. For that, you need to be speaking, speaking, speaking. I'll be discussing some different methods and techniques to improve your English speaking skills in the next lecture. For now, I want to talk about vocabulary. Vocabulary is a crucial component for speaking English fluently and confidently. The more words you know, the better you can express yourself. First, it is essential to build a strong foundation to expand your vocabulary. This includes nouns like computer, chair, table, mouse, etc. Verbs, crying, sitting, playing, and adjectives, big, small, happy, sad. These are the building blocks for creating sentences. Next, you can expand your vocabulary by learning phrases and sentences commonly used in everyday conversation.
How are you is a common greeting, and what's up is an informal way of asking the same question. Instead of saying the word goodbye all the time, you can also learn the phrase see you later. A synonym is a word that has the same meaning as another word. Funny is a synonym of humorous. This rule is all about using synonyms to expand our vocabulary and to make us sound much more fluent. I often hear students repeat the same words again and again, like this. London is a very beautiful city. Your daughter is beautiful. That painting is beautiful. You have very beautiful eyes. Use a dictionary to find a synonym for a word you use too much. Then simply swap the word for an interesting synonym. Let's try. London is a stunning city. Your daughter is gorgeous. That painting is magnificent. You have charming eyes. Can you see how powerful this is? Finally, it's now time to talk about the basic grammar that you must know for speaking English at this stage. Subject, verb, object, also known as SVO, is the simplest and most basic sentence structure in English. It starts with the subject, followed by the verb, and ends with the object. In the examples given below, I is the subject, eat is the verb, and pizza is the object. By understanding and practicing this basic sentence structure, you can start forming simple sentences. There are three main tenses in English: past, present, and future. At this beginner's level, please focus on simple past, present, and future. Verbs tell us what a subject is doing or what is happening to the subject. Regular verbs form past tenses by adding ed to the base form, but irregular verbs do not follow this rule. A contraction is a shortened version of two words, and an apostrophe is used to replace the missing letters. For example, he is becomes he's. That is becomes that's. I am becomes I'm, etc. In spoken English, contractions are very common and can help make your speech sound more natural and fluent. Contractions are more informal, but they are perfectly acceptable in most situations. The subject and the verb of a sentence must agree in number. This means that if the subject is singular, then the verb must also be singular. And if the subject is plural, then the verb must also be plural.
My mind goes blank when I try to speak English. I'm stuck and clueless. I don't know what to say. A lot of people don't really progress in their English because they're doing just one of two things. Either they're focusing on the input and not working on the output, or it's the other way around. They're concentrating on the output but not working on the input. Lessons 3 to 6 were all about input. By now, we understand the importance of thinking, reading, and listening in English, and we can do it in so many ways now. Next comes output, which is in the form of speaking and writing. When you're putting a lot of English into your head, it has to come out. But so many people don't use English. They don't practice speaking in English. And when the time and situation comes for them to use English, they become anxious and hesitant. A lot of people can manage reading, writing, and listening to English, but they think that speaking English is very difficult. Reading a book, memorizing a new word, watching a movie, and listening to a song will not work if you don't practice speaking. When we read, write, and listen to English, we get plenty of time to think about the language, but speaking requires us to immediately come up with a response. Moreover, when we read, write, and listen to English, we stay in our comfort zone, but speaking English requires us to come out of it. Therefore, I'm going to share with you a couple of exercises and methods to help you develop and practice your English speaking skills. The best thing about them is that you don't really need a partner to practice them with. Sometimes we're too shy of our accent or we're not fluent. For this, we have the shadowing exercise. This is a very simple exercise and fun too. All we have to do is copy and echo whatever the speaker is saying, but it's important that the speaker should be a native speaker. So let's begin now. It's really simple. I'll just play the video and copy whatever the main character is saying. If you want, you can switch on the subtitles. Here now. Don't do that.
Just hold still.
Just hold still.
If you'd hold still, it wouldn't hurt as much.
If you'd hold still, it wouldn't hurt that much.
If you hadn't frightened me, I wouldn't have run away.
If you hadn't frightened me, I wouldn't have run away.
Shouldn't have been in the West Wing.
Well, you should learn to control your temper.
But you should learn to control your temper.
Now hold still.
Now hold still.
This might sting a little.
This might sting a little.
By the way,
thank you
for saving my life.
for saving my life. The next technique is jam, also known as just a minute. This is an exercise to improve your spoken English skills by practicing to speak spontaneously for 1 minute at a time. To start practicing jam, choose a random topic. Set the timer for a minute and start speaking. The goal is to speak fluently without hesitations and pauses, while also taking care of good grammar and vocabulary. The benefit of this exercise is that it helps you to be confident and to be able to respond quickly in unexpected situations. It's really helpful when you're preparing for an interview or public speaking or situations where you have to speak under pressure. Learning a new language can become really overwhelming, but using short and simple sentences can make it easier for you to communicate effectively and be understood by others. When you're starting to learn a language, it is essential to use straightforward and brief sentences. so that you can focus on getting your message across. This way, you can also avoid making grammar mistakes. So instead of saying, I would like to inquire the possibility of attending your event next week, just say, can I attend your event? And instead of saying, after a long day's work, I try to relax by taking a hot shower, just say, after work, I take a shower. The next method is really valuable, and that is recording yourself on audio and video. I know many of you might be thinking that, gosh, this is really hard, but I'm so sorry. If you're not willing to step out of your comfort zone, then you can just stay where you are. You don't have to show the video to anybody. This is a great method because you can use it for self-correcting. You can make a vlog of yourself. Why don't you do it while you're cooking or gardening? Just say, hi, welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm making biryani. An important part of communication is interaction. Once you start practicing your spoken English skills, you'll start wishing that you had somebody to talk to in English. In case you don't, we can always use technology. I'm going to use Google Assistant. People also use Alexa, Siri, and other applications. Although sometimes it can have bugs, but it's still really helpful. And in case Google Assistant is not able to understand what you're saying, it means that there's something wrong with your pronunciation and hence you need to improve it. Let's begin. Hello, Google.
That's me. How can I help?
Can you talk to me?
I'd love to talk to you. How's your day going?
It's going wonderful.
Thanks for sharing. You know what always makes me feel better, on good or bad days?
Ice cream?
Music. It makes the good days great and the bad days a little better. If you want, I can sing you a song, or if you're in the mood for something specific, you can say something like, play uplifting music.
Can you sing a song for me?
You've got a much better singing voice than me. How about I play a tune and you sing along? It's karaoke time.
Oh, no. I'm not in the mood for singing right now. Why don't we just talk? Funny. Hello, Google. How are you doing today?
I'm fine and dandy. Thank you for asking.
It's my pleasure.
How extremely polite of you.
Thank you. You are polite too.
I do my best.
What are you up to these days?
I spend some of my time reading poetry.
What kind of poetry? I like poetry. People learn to speak English for different reasons. They may have to travel, appear in an interview, deliver a presentation. A mother may need to speak to her child's teacher in English, or they're just visiting a restaurant. Whatever the reason, it is a good idea to make a list of the different situations where you will need to speak English. Then, organize and make a database of different sentences according to that specific situation. And you must practice those sentences. This will give you a good vocabulary accordingly. For interviews and public speaking, you'll have to introduce yourself formally, and for social gatherings, you'll have to introduce yourself informally. By now, you and I are both aware that we cannot accomplish much by just studying grammar and by just reading the textbooks. Don't get me wrong, your textbooks are important and they're your foundation. But we've got to do something much more than that. To master your speaking skills, you've got to work on them on a daily basis. The best way to do it is to make it a part of your daily routine. So, I'd like to suggest a study plan to you to help you improve your English learning and speaking skills. But before I do that, there are some more things that I'd like to talk to you about. These are the things that I had to learn by myself, and nobody ever told me. Whatever I have to say to you is very critical for your success.
First of all, write down your goals. Achieving your dreams often requires a combination of hard work and determination, and English can also be an instrumental tool in getting there. Setting clear and achievable long term and specific goals can help you stay focused and motivated throughout your English learning journey. Your long term goals can be to, of course, achieve fluency in English and be able to communicate effectively in English. And maybe you want to get into your dream university, maybe get that dream job. Perhaps you're planning to go on a trip. Your specific goals can be to improve your listening skills, practice speaking, building on your vocabulary, and learn basic grammar, etc. There will always be days when you won't feel like studying, but learning to speak a new language is a process that requires discipline, time, effort, patience, willpower. You've got to be committed. You'll have to give sacrifices, but it's not impossible. So set a goal and make your plan. You must believe that it is possible for you to speak English fluently. Imagine yourself. Many people have the desire to speak English, but so many times they doubted themselves. They doubted their abilities. In order to achieve any goal, including your English fluency goal, you must first believe that it is possible. We should always strive towards excellence and work hard, while having faith that Allah will guide us towards success.
You must observe people speaking in English in various situations. Even if you read a lot of books, get great teachers, attend many classes, you have to observe. Observe how native speakers of English communicate with each other. What do they talk about? What words do they use? What expressions do they use? Don't just rely on the dictionary. You have to observe. Because of the internet, it is very easy to do that now. Watch movies, dramas, podcasts. But all of these things must have native speakers of English interacting with each other. You'll be amazed at how much your English fluency will improve after you start observing the English world. During your English learning journey, whenever you learn something new, use it immediately. If you read a chapter from a book, an article, or a blog, write down its summary or the main points. Teach the main concept to one or two people. Whenever you come across a new word, phrase, or expression during your listening and reading practice, write it down and make a sentence of it. You can also use it in a conversation with your parents, your siblings, and colleague, friends, etc. For instance, perplex is a word, and the meaning of perplex is confused. You can just go up to your mom and say to her, "Hey mom, you know what? I was really perplexed last week." I have a student who, whenever spoke to me in English, made a lot of grammatical mistakes. But whenever she talked about the topic in which she was interested, it seemed as if English was coming to her naturally because she was very passionate about it. She had lost her mother about a couple of years ago, and after that, her whole life had completely shattered, and she used to cry all the time. She cried so much at the loss of her mother that she started losing her eyesight. But then she started studying the Quran, and uh, she found a lot of comfort with the word of God. And whenever she spoke to me about the Quran, it was as if uh, English was coming to her naturally. So at a party or at the office or anywhere, whenever you try to have a conversation with somebody in English,
try to talk about a topic in which you are really interested, you're passionate about, and you have a lot of experience and knowledge.
You must study what is interesting to you. This way, you'll learn faster. If you don't study something you're interested in, you will get bored.
Start following English speaking influencers, YouTubers, TikTokers, and Instagram people. If you like lifestyle, electronics, and fitness, there are so many people who post about all these things. Start commenting under their posts. With time, you start understanding them and you'll become comfortable. There's so much content which is just remarkable and amazing. If you go to Google and type in the question that how do I improve my English speaking skills, a very common answer is that talk to a person who's already fluent in English. Have a conversation with a native speaker of English. But this is not really possible for most of us. There is one solution. On Facebook, there are a lot of groups and communities of people who want to learn English or some other language. You can join those groups and reach out to different people and ask them if they're interested to practice and learn English or some other language. You may get a favorable reply, and this will help you out. But I just wanted to warn you that be very, very careful. Please take care of yourself because, as you know, it's a dangerous world out there, and just don't trust anybody too much. Don't give out any personal information. Don't readily try to meet somebody. Everybody wants to know how fast and how soon they can become fluent in English. That depends on a lot of things, like what level of English are you at right now? At the beginner's level or the intermediate level? How much time are you spending with English on a daily basis? 5 minutes or 1 hour? Of course, a person who's spending 1 hour on a daily basis with English is gonna become fluent much faster than a person who's merely spending 5 minutes. Are you using your textbook to become fluent in English? Then that'll be impossible. You need to naturally integrate English into your life. Start watching podcasts, movies, videos. You shouldn't be studying or practicing English for just 2 to 3 days in a week. You will have to make English a part of your life. You'll have to make it your priority. If you want to become fluent in English fast, then you'll have to totally immerse yourself in the language. You'll have to become obsessed with English. You'll have to eat, breathe, and sleep English. I know all this is easier said than done, but I've been there, I've done this, and it really worked for me. Cut yourself off from your native language for 30 days, and after 30 days, you'll see the difference. Listen and speak English a lot. Listen and repeat. Mimic and copy the native speakers of English, and your accent and fluency is really going to improve. The purpose is to create a natural environment for you to learn and speak English.
Now it's about time we come to the plan. In order to achieve your English goals, you must have a clear plan. This is a 30-day plan which is easy to follow. According to this plan, you'll have to dedicate at least 1 hour every day. This is an outline. You can make changes as per your requirement.
Can we really improve our language by just spending 40 to 60 minutes with it every day? Because many of us, we lead busy lives and we cannot give several hours in a day to learning the language. But hopefully, this plan will be able to fit into your daily routine. Every one of us comes from a different background. Everyone has a unique situation, and everyone learns in a different manner. If there's anything that you'd like to add in the plan, go ahead, you're most welcome. Just don't overwhelm yourself. Don't get depressed. You have to work hard, but you also have to work smart. Slow and steady wins the race. And if you're really passionate about achieving your goal, you'll find those 40 to 60 minutes every day.
When you're trying to achieve anything, you need to first get organized. Your tools are very important. So you need to get a journal and divide it into three sections: vocabulary and phrases section, an essay writing section, and a study notes section. Or you can get three separate journals for these activities. You will also need a dictionary. You can use Google for that or download an app on your phone. From Monday till Saturday, we'll be covering the four aspects of learning a language: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. On Sundays, you can relax. Each day, we'll be focusing on one of these aspects. Ideally, to be able to speak fluently, you should be working on listening, reading, and speaking every day. Remember that doing a little every day is much better than piling up all the work for a couple of hours on Sunday. You can start by taking a free fluency test before you start working on your 30-day plan. There are several free online tests available to assess your English speaking, listening, writing, and comprehension skills. Apart from the ones mentioned, there are many other options available online. Please compare your test results at the end of the 30-day marathon. On day 1, we'll be focusing on listening. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy yourself while watching your favorite YouTube video, a podcast, or drama of your choice for at least 30 minutes. Please remember to write down any 2-3 new sentences, phrases, or words that you heard. Then practice the shadowing exercise. Focus on repeating what you hear. The main objective of this course is fluency. Fluency is the skill that you need to communicate. It is the ability to speak and understand instantly. You do not get fluency by just reading textbooks, going to school, or by studying grammar rules. Listening is the key. To be a fantastic English speaker, you must learn English with your ears and not just with your eyes. But it must be understandable. If you don't understand, you learn nothing. Listen to each thing many times. On day 2, read out loud for at least 30 minutes. Read articles and blogs related to your topic. Write down any new vocabulary words. Then please practice speaking with technology like Google Assistant or any app or website. Reading is the best way to improve your vocabulary. If your goal is to learn new words and new expressions, then watching a video with captions can be very useful. While reading, underline the words and start using them in your conversations. Reading will also help with your sentence structures. Sometimes we have the words, but we're not able to build sentence structures with them. Once you start reading, your grammar is going to improve by itself. If you're going to immerse yourself in learning a language, then grammar is going to come by itself. When you're going to read and listen more and more, your grammar will definitely improve. On day 3, practice speaking using the JAM technique. Spend some time writing down the main points. Initially, speak on topics you're really passionate about or topics that you're really interested in. After some time, you can move on to various topics. The reason we're not fluent is that we don't practice speaking regularly. Don't wait to become perfect. Every day means every day. Don't worry about making mistakes. Don't worry if you don't sound natural. If you're at the beginner or intermediate level, you'll have problems in speaking if you don't have any content. But if you have observed so many things, then you can easily speak 5 to 10 lines with confidence. When I was a little girl, I used to listen a lot and I used to read a lot. So I had something on my mind to hold a conversation. On day 4, you can record a video or an audio note. Record one video every week. Every week? That may sound scary, but it's not as hard as you think. You have a cell phone. Doesn't matter which cell phone, just use it. You can see yourself talking about your day, your passions, hobbies. Talk about your favorite movie, a memorable day in your life. This is important because this will help you track your progress as an English learner and help you be more comfortable speaking. You may not be there yet, and sometimes you'll feel discouraged. But when you have videos once a week, you will realize that you're getting better with time. Day 5. Focus on writing about your day. This is gonna be really useful. Read an article or two, write down the main points, the summary on the main concept. Keep a journal. A journal is something you write in every day or once a week, whatever you choose. You can write about your day and what happened, some significant events. Write about your fears, your desires, and emotions. It's a beautiful tool to work on your English because it's a great place to practice your tenses and to use new words. This is a necessary step if you want to be confident and fluent. Write a movie review, a book review, a video review. Please use ChatGPT to guide and correct you. Spend 30 minutes studying the basic grammar. You can also study a book on idioms, phrases, vocabulary, and grammar. Make sure you understand the concept. Write down some examples and sentences and apply the concept you just learned. You'll have to wait a long time to get the results you want to see. But if you're going to be patient, then your results are going to exceed your expectations, inshallah. Just believe that you will achieve your goal. This brings us an end to this course. Thank you very much for learning with me. Make sure you follow all the tips and inshallah you'll become a much better speaker. Allah Hafiz.